Okay, thank you, Gina. Thank you, Michael. I'd like to thank Michael for contextualizing and framing the morning's proceedings so well. So Michael talked quite a bit about the importance of the social environment, and I thought that would be a good launching point for what I'm about to spend the next 10-15 minutes on. Again, just like Michael started with a story, so I'll start with a story. And yeah, so this story I thought of very last minute. So unfortunately, I don't have any graphics or anything. It actually came to me in a WhatsApp message last night because I'd like to tell you the story of Joel. Joel is currently he's in NS, he's in BMT in camp, and because he's in BMT still, he has limited access to the internet and only sent me a message last night. He asked me if I could write an appeal letter for him because he's trying to get into the NIE. He would like to get into a career in education. His results at A-levels were and he's gone through the interview, and he didn't get through the interview, and therefore he's trying to get an appeal. So Joel is interesting because of this story, which I'll spend the next 10 minutes on. Okay, so I'll come back to the story of Joel by way of closure. So just remember that there's this chap who's really keen on getting into education, but the gatekeepers are such that, maybe grades not so good, didn't get through the interview so well, so yeah, tough luck. Okay, so I think most of you would know where this graphic came from, right? Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. Actually, this is from the original Jurassic Park. And one of the themes from Michael Crichton's novel is that life finds a way. Life finds a way. So, no matter what life, no matter what kind of nonsense things happen to you, if you're determined enough, and if you're, to use MOE jargon, if you're self-directed enough, you'll find a way. So basically, this story is about life finding a way. The story I'd like to tell you is situated in a school. The school, and in particular, is situated in a CCA co-curricular activity, that in this particular case, the NCC Air. And the NCC Air in this school is doing very well, as you can see. NCC Air has two main components to its curriculum. One is foot drills, and the other is aero modeling. So the story I'd like to tell you about is on the aero modeling aspect of NCC Air in this particular school. Now, I'm showing you this picture for several reasons. Firstly, there's a person in the picture, and then there's also the backdrop. Would anyone like to hazard a guess as to what this person in the picture is doing? Yes, sir. Soldering. Yes, thank you, sir. Thanks for giving me the right answer at the right time so that we can continue on in our pragmatic way. Yes, she is indeed soldering. And she is indeed soldering, and she's so intent in soldering that she's willing to get into an uncomfortable position because she wants to. She has a very clear objective what she's trying to do. Now, the other interesting thing about this photo is that there is a closed door. Now, the significance of a closed door is important because one of my main points today is that there's a lot of magic happening already in school. Michael talked about the social environment. Michael talked about investment. Michael talked about assessment. My point today that I'd like you to think about is that there's already a lot of good things happening in school regarding 21CC, regarding maker dispositions, regarding creativity, regarding innovation. The problem is what? The problem is very often our eyes are not attuned to looking out for them. So this story is about how I stumbled upon a makerspace already existing in a school, which the teachers had no idea about, which the school leadership had no idea about. And the only reason I discovered it was because the students and I had some rapport. So the students were sharing with me their Christmas holiday pictures. And then I noticed some of the pictures looked pretty interesting, and then I asked them what they were doing, and then they explained what they were doing. So basically, the children themselves did not realize the value, the long-term value of what they were doing. The school also did not recognize what was happening within its own, literally within its own backyard. And this is quite important, I think. The next photo shows what's behind the door. Behind the door, there's a room. There's the NCC Air room, okay? And those of you who are academics here, you'll be familiar with Engelstrom's activity theory. And this is a good, I like this slide because it's a good example of the tension that must exist between chaotic divergent activity and at the same time a very rigorous convergence in terms of, so it's an alternation between convergence and divergence, which results in high quality created artifacts. So the rules are here, set up by the students themselves, and they allude to a division of labor. And I'm using these terms deliberately for those of you who are familiar with activity theory. If you're not familiar with activity theory, we can just skip to the next slide. Okay. Now, as I said, the rules were made up by the students themselves. And likewise, the curriculum is also determined by the students themselves. And here, we see another clear example of the division of labor between the senior, the Sec 3, and the Sec 1s. So here, the Sec 3 is inducting the Sec 1s into the principles of aerodynamic flight. The students had to, the seniors had to conceptualize a curriculum which is scaffolded very well. And the reason they needed to conceptualize a curriculum which is scaffolded is because NCC Air, like most CCAs, have participated in national level competitions. And in national level competitions, one of the main, apart from foot drill, they also participate in how well you can fly a radio control aeroplane. But of course, radio control aeroplanes are pretty, I mean, they're not cheap. And you can't just turn novices into, I mean, you can't just let them loose into flying pieces of equipment which cost several $100s to purchase. So, like any good curriculum, they designed a scaffolded curriculum. And what's especially remarkable is this scaffolded curriculum was designed by the students themselves. Now, remember the story of Joel. He's trying to get into a career in education. So they designed this scaffolded curriculum where initially they first tried to fly virtually using a flight simulator. And then this progresses on to, after you learn how to fly, after you learn how to take off, you must learn how to land, and you must also learn how to bomb the target. So this all helps you understand and have an embodied understanding of principles of flight, of drag, of lift, and the three axes of motion. But of course, you can't just ace a national competition by learning to fly virtually. Slowly, at some point or other, you need to start handling tangibles. And in this case, this particular case, the tangible is a model aeroplane. You can see that the young lady here is trying to, in this particular case, what she's trying to do is she's trying to do the wiring. You can see that the engine is in the process of being assembled, and you can see that there's no gear at all. The gear is still down here. Okay, so once that is done, they can go on to the next stage, which is they can start to practice. Now these things are these are motorized gliders. Motorized gliders are cheaper than these full-blown model Cessnas. So if you crash a Cessna, wow, quite difficult to go and get it repaired. But if you crash a motorized glider, yeah, can kind of bend it back into shape. And that's exactly what they're doing here. However, they've started to do a little bit more interesting stuff in this particular photograph. Here they are repairing a motorized glider. You can see that it's a collaborative activity. And again, those of you who are trained social scientists, there's quite a lot of interesting things going on, which I'm sure you'll be able to pick up. For those of us who are laymen, not so atas, then what is capturing our attention is, of course, the wildly different diversity of tools, colors, as well as the general interaction that's going on. You can see that they're pretty engaged, they're having a good time learning. But are they learning or not? If so, what are they learning? Surely they can't be learning because this is a CCA, this is a co-curricular activity. Is this a formal curriculum? So, is this the formal curriculum? And what are they learning? How can you assess the kinds of learning that goes on in maker dispositions? This particular example shows how they have gone beyond their original mandate. Nobody asked them to go and do this. This scores them nothing in the national exams. Scores them nothing in the national level competitions either. But here they have gone on to think about how a model airplane can be hacked into a land-based vehicle. This is incomplete, of course, but you can see this is definitely not going to fly because it's just not got the aerodynamics. Instead, you can see the beginnings of a chassis, and you can see that they are improvising their own materials, through which they learn a lot about material science, they learn a lot about center of gravity, about, and again about suspension design and motorization. So all these kinds of interesting things go on in tandem with the regular regimentation that we are so familiar with seeing in schools. Okay, so I keep trying to highlight this tension between the regimentation, between the rank structure, between the somber faces, and at the same time, on the other side of the coin, the having fun, the learning without realizing you're learning, the improvisation without realizing you're improvisationing, and the 21cc that all teachers are trying to say, how on earth how do I teach 21cc? Okay, I think you know my answer to that question, right? Okay, by way of coming to an end, Joel, he went on to improvise. So he wasn't content with coming up with a land-based craft. He went on to talk about water-based craft. And again, he learned about he learned about flotation, he learned about density, and other interesting stuff about the person taking the bath and displacement of water. Because in order to design a boat, you have to think about how to design a boat. It's more than just putting a motor onto a thing, because it's going to sink. So here he went on beyond that, and he tried to cobble together his own desk lamp. The photo is dark because it's taken from his own bedroom. Okay, so I didn't ask him to share this photo. He himself, to pardon the Singlish, he himself go and take the initiative to do this and then to share he was so excited, he shared this with me. And then, even beyond the desktop table lamp, he went on to do this. And what he said was very revealing. He said, electrolysis is one of the more difficult topics in chem. I wanted to try it out for myself. Thanks to my equipment, I was able to carry out. Unfortunately, the safety device cut in. So, and then he came out with this very interesting, I don't know, I'm not a chem teacher, so either he inducted it himself or he deduced it himself but whatever it is, he was able to make the connection between his formal curriculum with his informal tinkering, which is very, very significant. The problem is, as I said, a lot of this goes on under the radar. So I think if there are any teachers in the audience here, I would like to encourage you to think about, to be slightly more alert as to the kinds of interesting stuff that's going on. So this is the story of Joel. he is obviously a very brilliant person in his own way, except that he has not registered his brilliance in regular assessment modes and in regular assessment formats. I think he would make a terrific teacher. He was actually my intern here when he was doing his junior college at Anderson. And I've seen him present, I've seen him talk to his peers. He's able to scaffold, he's able to address his audience. He is going to make a very brilliant teacher. The question is, will the system let him in or not? Okay, thank you very much.